Welcome to Journey, the program that we talk to Jamaicans who have moved to Calgary. And today we'll be talking to Anice. My name is David. And Anice, thank you for coming and welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Where in Jamaica are you from?
I'm actually from Newport, Manchester. I grew up in Christiana, and then we moved to South Manchester, Newport. But I haven't been there for a while because of job opportunities. So from Jamaica, I'm leaving from Clarendon.
So you actually went to school in Jamaica?
I did. My alma mater is Manchester High, so
Okay.
I left Manchester
Good.
High in 1997, and then I went on to college at the College of Agriculture, Science and Education. Spent some time there at Island Areas. Then I went on to do my undergrad at the University of the West Indies in Trinidad and Tobago. Then I came back to Jamaica, so it's been a little whirlwind.
And after you got back to Jamaica, after studying, then you decided you want to go to Calgary, Canada. What was the decision for you to leave Jamaica?
Well, I was working at Hartress NTA, maybe 3.5, 4 years, and there was a point in my life where I wanted a change. So I was either going to get a new job or, of course, I could go back to school. And I decided school might be the best option. So I decided to apply for graduate studies, and then I applied to the University of Guelph. I got through, decided to pack my bags, and Ontario it was, not Calgary.
Okay.
So I left Jamaica and went to Ontario August of 2008 to do grad studies.
So when did you actually arrive in Calgary?
In Calgary, I came, I think it's October 2011. So after grad school, I decided I'm going to job hunt. Initially, coming to Canada, I thought I was going to go back home. It was in a field where we didn't have a lot of geneticists in Jamaica, and I was gung-ho to just study here and go back home. After paying all the tuition in Canada, I decided, hey, why not stay and see what benefits I could get? So I started to job hunt. Of course, you're finishing grad school, you're poor, you're hungry, any job you get, you take it.
I understand.
Saw some jobs in Calgary, I applied and decided, well, Calgary it is.
Good, good. So you say you came in October of 2011. So that's just in the fall, right?
Right.
What was the weather like when you came in?
It's kind of different. When I was leaving Ontario, a lot of persons said, oh, you can't go out west, the winters are horrible, it's so cold. But I actually didn't have a big challenge because I actually think it's quite better than Ontario in terms of, in Ontario I had like bone chilling cold. In Calgary, it was just kind of just cold. So actually, I adjusted quite well, and maybe that could be just because I was in Ontario for 3 years.
But I guess because Calgary is one of the sunniest city in North America.
Right.
And it's always sunny, so even when it's cold, it's a little bit, right?
And I was surprised by that actually, because I would see the sun and go outside, and then I would have to run in. Yeah.
You were being tricked by the sun, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So after you started job hunting, how long did you wait before you got a job and started working?
Well, I've always known that I had to work. So I'm on my own, I need to do this. So actually going backwards, back in Ontario, I came to Calgary in August, moved to Guelph, which I found the apartment from Jamaica, and I started school first week of September, and the first week of September I was working on campus. So I got a job the very first week. I decided I had to pay my bills, and the bills have to be paid. So I was hitting the brick from the first week I came to Canada, right? Then when I left Ontario, I came to Calgary in a job. So I just moved and continued progress within that job, right? So I started working in Canada from the first week.
So basically, you had a very good transition coming from Jamaica into Ontario and into Calgary because you were well prepared already educationally, and then you immediately got a job by the time you got into Calgary. So what was that like with your first job working in Calgary?
It was actually pretty good. The funny thing about Calgary is, unlike Ontario, Ontario has a built-in diversity. So people are used to all the different backgrounds. So you're Jamaican, but you're not necessarily something that's new. I got my job in Alderside, near Okotoks, and it is, for want of a better word, it lacks a lot of diversity. So I was the first black employee there.
Okay.
After leaving that job, there is no black employee there. So there was a fascination as to, one, you're black, And then there's a fascination as to you're Jamaican, and Jamaica has this brand that everybody wants to know everything about Jamaica. So it was a smooth transition into the work just because of the fascination of who you are and where you're from, and just to learn just whatever your different habits are. So for me, it was pretty
Anice,
smooth.
what did you miss about Jamaica when you came to Calgary? What did you miss about Jamaica when you saw how different it was?
Um, Usually I like food, so I really miss the food that somebody has prepared, not the food that I could go and buy to cook,
Okay.
but just the pre-prepared food. So I miss that whole element of the food, and sometimes I miss the people. Maybe the good things about the people. I like that even though it seems as if we're not quite frank in Jamaica, we are actually pretty frank. I find that one of the things that annoyed me the most about Canadians and Calgarians is everything is sorry, and there's a smile that doesn't imply that I like you or I don't like you or I'm being polite or I'm not being polite. So that rubbed me the wrong way because I wasn't sure how genuine the people were. In Jamaica, you usually know when somebody is with you
Yes, for sure.
or they're not with you.
Yes.
So I think I miss that the most, just the authenticity of the people. So Canada is somewhat of an equalizer, but it's also, I mean, not to be negative, it's also pretentious. So you're not exactly sure where somebody stands, and I think I miss that element of Jamaica.
And as you mentioned that, have you ever experienced racism since you've been here?
I'm gonna go with no, just because it's just my personal belief that if you don't like me, it has to be jealousy. So I've never taken it too hard to say it has to be because I'm black or because I am from Jamaica. And what I have noticed, what I have felt is the second job I applied for, it was in Edmonton. It's Alberta here. And when I did the interview, they asked so many questions as to if I thought my experience in Jamaica could transition to Canadian system. I knew I would not get that job. And that in itself is an element of racism, but it's more of a cultural, technical. So they're basically saying, does your education really equalize to the system that they have in Canada? So it is some level of it, but that was the only time I felt that you probably thought I was not your equal.
And in that light, at the same time too, your qualifications were way above many people that you were working with as well too. So
Right.
did you feel that you were being singled out in some way because you were from the islands?
It was definitely a selection to say, hey, you've never experienced our type of agricultural system. Could you really adjust? So the funny thing about Canada is Canada wants you to come educated. They
Yes.
want you to come with that background. However, when you come, you don't have the Canadian experience. And so it's a very slim line in saying, hey, I do have the experience, I do have the competence, and the person who wants to supervise you actually does not have the competence. So it's one of those avenues that you actually have to find a way to maneuver. In the end, it will all depend on where you land, determines your course of action.
So what we
Right?
call a catch-22 basically,
Yes.
right? You are not sure whether you're going to be in or out,
Or out.
because of the way they are doing things.
Right.
Now, since that time now, you've been here 9 years now,
Right.
and what is your take on it now since that day, the first time you came in, the first year to now? What's your take on it now?
Well, I think the system, it's getting better based on what you hear, just in general. But I think the biggest thing for me is you have to plan. So you have to plan your action. Like you have to plan how you're gonna strike. So you gotta do your homework based on where you want to get a job, and then you need to write it how they want to read it. So sometimes we take for granted, we're like, oh, well, I know how to do this and this is the proper way to do it. It doesn't really translate that way. So once you can learn their system, you adopt where you need to adopt, you'll be fine.
So for someone who's going to be thinking of making their journey to Calgary, Canada and Calgary right now, what would you say should be their process of doing that?
What is it you want? And then when you decide what is it you want to do, you need to identify from whatever means you need to identify how is it I'm going to achieve it, what adjustments do I need to make. It's okay to listen to other people's experience, but each of us will have a unique experience, and so you need to plan, and the plan needs to have a plan A and it needs to have a plan B, and you have to also recognize that whatever you have in Jamaica, it's going to be different because you need to start again in Canada. Where you start will be the question. And where you start will have a lot to do with where you land. So for example, if you landed in Calgary, what opportunities are available in Calgary, and also how much planning you did before you got here.
So setting their goals and planning to achieve those goals to make sure that when they get here, and be prepared for any
and just be
changes that can take place as well too. In your mindset right now, for someone coming to Calgary with no education that will fit into the Canadian aspect of things, what would you say that they should be doing?
I'm a staunch believer in being trained. So I really do believe you need to be trained in something that you like. Canada on a whole, and Calgary on a whole, is skill driven.
Good.
So if you have a skill set, you need to be certified in that skill set. Now, if you are in Jamaica, then there's Hartrust NTA, and Hartrust NTA can certify you in quite a bit of skill sets. So at least when you come here, you have the background to say, I'm certified in this, and I can extend my certification by going back to school, or if I do my homework very well and I try to network, I might actually find a job within that sector. Sometimes you can't be afraid to start at the bottom, because very quickly you can actually pick out who has value and who doesn't have value. And so if you work the system well, you can also climb up. So there is value in certification, and then once you have that certification, it actually makes you employable.
Okay. So let me segue into another part of what we talk about in terms of community. In Jamaica, you are a very close-knit community, right? In Calgary, have you found that same close-knit Calgarians are the same close-knit community in terms of the Jamaicans here?
In terms of the Jamaicans, it's kind of weird. So Calgary in general, I actually don't consider it a community. So you have pots, so you have families. Rarely you'll have extended type of family, but usually predominantly nuclear units. And then you have the Jamaican Association, which I'm a part of, and then you have that family there. But it's a family that you meet and hang out with. It doesn't mean it's a family that you extend every day of the week with, right? So when you're with them, you're a group. Outside of them, you still stand.
And if you talk about community in Calgary here, with regard to the Jamaican community, what do you see as one of the biggest things that in terms of the connection that you have made since you got here?
Well, for me, when I came to Calgary, I actually took quite some effort to find the association, because the association gives you that level of home. So it gives you that feeling of home. You can go, you can chat, you can line, you can get information. It's just an association with your own people, right? So it gives you back reflections from home, and also if you want anything. So for example, if you go there and you haven't tasted some ackee and saltfish for a while, you know what I mean? If you want to get some of the food, if you want hair products, even to hang out, actually, some of the festivals, you might have them go along with you. So just that community, it's been really good to have that community that you can share with, and I say wagwan, and the person immediately understands
so it's like
what I mean, right?
A home away from home.
It's
in
like
a sense,
home
right?
away from home. Yeah, and even though they're not necessarily going to change something that happens in your life, they will give you that element of, I can smile now because I'm talking to my own people. They can understand some of the struggles that I may have had that another culture probably will not understand. Yeah. And we can reflect, because there are things back home that nobody else here can understand, but they will exactly understand, and so we can just have a good time.
So do you do celebrations with Jamaicans in different areas, where the festivals particularly, is there a Jamaican festival thing that goes on with, like, for example, when Jamaica celebrated independence, is it marked here?
Oh yes, so the Jamaican Association has a huge umbrella where they participate in various activities throughout the year. They have their big flagship event, which is Taste of Jamaica, usually on the last Saturday, the last Saturday, Easter Saturday. So it's a Saturday
That's like it's
after.
in April, right?
Yeah, that's in
Okay.
April. And of course, we recognize independence in August, and we do have our Christmas or New Year's Eve gala. So there are varying opportunities for us to get together as a group, and we also meet monthly. So there is ample time for us to get together and organize and just unify and then, help each other out. Sometimes the help you need is just somebody to talk to, right? And that just works.
So for someone making their journey from Jamaica to Calgary right now, the Jamaica Calgary Association is a good place for them to stop by and find out how they can really integrate into the community as well.
Oh yeah, it's a good spot to stop because the funny thing is not everybody knows something, but we all don't know everything. So it's a good place to stop, have a talks, whatever questions you might have. Then there's always somebody there who could actually probably help out with that answer and direct you in the right path, right? Because there's no sense in reinventing a wheel, right? So if there's somebody who can help you, why not take the help? And then it just makes that journey a bit easier.
And I know Jamaicans love their partying and their dominoes. The dominoes are played and partying.
Oh
takes
yeah.
place in that
Jamaican vibes is always there wherever you go, and so that vibes remains with us, right?
And is there an outreach to the extension of the other communities as well too?
Oh yeah. So with the Jamaican Canadian Association, the aim is to add to that diversity in Calgary, right? And so we are a part of the fabric of the city. And so all our activities are geared not only to us, but more importantly, to expose the city to our culture and what it means to be Jamaican and what it means to say, I am impacting Calgary in this particular way.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing your journey with us today. As I recall, you came from Manchester via Clarendon into Kingston and Ontario, Trinidad as part of it as well, doing your studies. I know you're in Calgary. Is there anything else you would like to add to what you've said? So for someone who is thinking right now in Jamaica, maybe I'm going to go to Canada, Calgary, and they're traveling from Niggery Point or Moran Point or anywhere in between.
Well, I would just say don't be afraid of the journey. So life is made of experiences, right? So plan for it, put your ducks in a row and execute. We continue through life. It is a journey. And so wherever you go, you'll have experiences. I would say don't be hesitant. Change is something that's inevitable. And so make the change, go for it. And Canada is actually a good place to live. And so I would encourage you, why not? Just come on down or up. I don't know.
Thank you. No, it's all right. Thank you so much. Come on up, come on down.
Come on down.
Thank you for
Yeah.
watching Journey.
Thank
If you have any questions or comments, please feel them below. Of course, you see them on your social media. And until next time, walk good. This is David signing out on Journey.